an overview on chemical composition of rice. So as we all know that rice is, its botanical name is Oryza sativa. It's very easy to remember, and it is one of the most important and leading food crop in the world. In 2010, the global rice production was approximately 696 million tons, and more than 90% of the world's rice is grown and consumed in Asia by 60% of the world's population on about 11% of the world's cultivated land. If you look at not only in our country but of course in India also, there are certain region where only rice is eaten, and in the world also, like of course there are wheat based product like bread, bakery products are there, but then rice is one of the most commonly eaten staple food across Asia as well as other countries. Okay, but rice is a covered grain which is also called as a rough rice, and here in this picture you can see this is a paddy, and this is very rough. This rough rice consists of a white starchy, see this is the rice grain. If you look this picture, so if you look at the structure of this grain, you have this is the rough rice, or it is also called as the rough covering, which is also together with this rough covering is called as a paddy. So this is a paddy, a rice grain with the covering. Okay, so this rough rice consists of a white and starchy endosperm which is surrounded by this tightly adhered bran and germ. Okay, there is a germ. Do you see? This is also called as embryo. This is the small portion, the germ within the hull, within a hull. Okay, so the hull surrounds but is not bound to the grain and constitute about, see it's a very large mass. You see the thickness, it's almost 20 to 30% of the total rice mass. Again, this is your rough rice coating which is called as a paddy, also called as a hull, around 20 to 30%, and we will see it in detail. There are number of different varieties of rice, okay, based on the number of varieties of rice, but the approximate constant level is 20 to 30% of the hull. Then comes your bran constitute around 8%. See, this is the hull, okay, or husk. So once you remove the husk, then you will get a brown rice. If you remove the hull, you will get brown rice. From brown rice, if you remove the bran, which is almost 8%, you will get the white rice, the one that we consume mostly in our day life. So after removal of the hull, you get brown rice, and when you have the brown rice, there is a light coloring. So you see this brown, this is the bran, okay, together. This is a bran is made up of 3 layers: pericarp, tegmen and aileron layer, and then the next layer is your endosperm. Okay, so bran is consisting of 3 layers: pericarp, tegmen and aileron layer, and together of these 3 they form the bran. Okay, and then next to the aileron layer you have the starchy endosperm which constitute approximately 70%. Okay, again the starchy endosperm varies from variety to variety of starch. Then comes your germ, or then comes your embryo, and embryo accounts for 2% of the total mass. Okay, so just to give you an idea what is rough rice, it is also called as a paddy. Okay, it is also called as a paddy. Please keep it in mind. Okay, it is also called as a hull, or it is also called as a husk. Okay, there are so many names for one single thing. If you do de-hulling, okay, there are, so today we are going to learn multiple number of processing. One is de-hulling, another one is milling, and then in these two detailed processing we will see how these byproducts are, you know, obtained. So when you have this paddy or hull or husk containing rice, you remove this hull. The process is called as a de-hulling. There are various number of instruments, equipments like de-huller are being used, and then when you remove this rough husk, you get this brown rice. And nowadays this brown rice is very very famous, and people literally love this brown rice because of the health benefits or nutrients. However, because this um, rice bran is highly unstable, containing mufa and pufa, this makes this rice less shelf stable. So therefore this is not a very good rice. It gets rancid very easily, it get infected with insects very easily because of the bran. Okay, it gets rancid very easily. So when you have this brown rice and you milling is, see, there are various types of mills. Okay, you will wonder why mill means only obtaining flour. No, okay, there are two types of milling operation. One is to obtain the flour, which is usually we call it as a wheat flour, maida. We saw already, okay, milling operation in detail. So and then milling is also consisting of a grain milling. One is flour milling, grain milling. Grain milling means, you know, converting or processing of the grain to obtain, you know, polished rice. So in case of rice, when you do the milling of brown rice, you get the white rice or polished rice. Okay, polished rice. Okay, and then the byproduct here obtained in the de-hulling process is rice husk or rice hull. In the second process you get rice bran, and further if you process this rice bran, you will get rice bran oil. Okay, nowadays we consume it a lot. Okay, okay. So rice grains are basically subjected to mechanical stresses. There are, you know, traditional methods also, like my grandmother used to make, and also right now my Masi also makes this, you know, brown rice in the village still, you know. So how she makes, she has like chakki kind of thing. It is not chakki, but it is called as a stone. Okay, stone. So this is called as a musal. Okay, so this is a stone, and then there is a long wooden thing, okay, which is very smooth, and then it is fixed in the earth, like in the on the earth surface. Okay, so this is fixed, and it is not movable, and then they put this paddy. Okay, so when you put this paddy has this thick layer. So when you apply the pressure in the traditional mechanical force, what happen, there is a thrashing action, and also there is a application of shearing shearing force. Okay, sorry. So there is application of shearing force, thrashing force, and because of that the grains outer coating or paddy gets loosened up. But at the same time what happens, you know, there is a lot of breakage. So you see, this is called as, you know, lot of breakage. It is called as a tukda, and it has no price. This is the one that is, you know, most cheaply available. Suppose the whole grain or the whole long rice is 100 or 150 or 180. Okay, maximum the price start from 100 rupees a kg. Sorry, 100 rupees a kg, but this tukda you get just 30, like 25 to 30 rupees a kg. So it's very very cheap. Okay, very very, because you see these small broken granules, and they, of course there are certain population who prefers to eat tukda over the long grain, and then long grain is generally preferred when we make pulao or biryani, some special product like when we have some special recipes like pulao or biryani or things like that. But when we want to make like kheer, kheer, we want this kind of right, like because then it can give you a viscous kind of porridge or viscous thick mass, okay, mass. So that is why it is. But then because it is cheap, it is also consumed widely, okay. So basically there is a traditional also which is called as a stone chakki, in which with the threshing action this can be removed. But then nowadays with the modernization, these things have been advanced, and now you have modern machineries and equipment which we will see in detail, okay. Then uh, when the stresses exceed the rice grain, in this case what is happening, the stresses are exceeding than the rice grains strength, and that is why you get this tukda, okay. So the individual rice grain breaks, and then as a miller, as a rice grain miller, I will not get a good price. See, 100 ka 150 rupees kg kahan par or 25 rupees kahan par. So as a miller, if I want to make a maximum profit, what I will look for? I will look for the minimum breakage. So how can I get the rice that is milled with the minimum breakage? Okay, so that is the objective when you are performing milling. So before we look into the details of milling, it is very important to understand the chemical composition, its morphology, the structure of the grain, and then what are the problems of causing the breakage, what are the various problems or factors that causes problems. And once we understand problem, it is very easy for us to identify the solution. And so therefore I will first cover the chemical composition, okay. So basically, as I mentioned before, this cereal rice is the staple food most of the developing countries, including India, Pakistan, and certain other Asian countries like in Thailand, Malaysia, and nearby countries, or you go to Japan or any countries, you take a name, rice is there, okay. Rice is consumed worldwide. So in India specifically, rice is a staple food of many South Indian, or if you go to Hyderabad, Kerala, or some like Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, West Bengal, you see this rice consumption is very high, whereas in Marathwada or in north side, you see that chapati is consumed. Its scientific name is Oryza sativa, is because of its chemical constituent. There is one constituent called as oryzanol into it, and that is why this name Oryza comes, okay. So what is the morphological structure of the grain, what it contains, okay. The threshed rice, the rice with the husk, is known as paddy or rough rice, okay. You must have seen the paddy or rough rice, and also in the picture I have shown. So the grain is covered with a caryopsis slightly smaller than wheat, is flattened laterally and has a small point at end of distal from germ, okay. So this is the rice. Very similar to wheat, but there are of course differences in terms of chemical composition. So there is no ventral furrow. Yeah, I was mentioning in case of wheat, you see these two bifurcation. It is called as a ventral furrow. But in case of this rice grain, there is no bifurcation. It is a whole rice grain, and that is why it's very difficult to separate the germ. In case of wheat, we saw that in the initial milling steps, okay, there are milling steps. We saw those 3 milling steps. In the initial milling step, it is very easy to remove the germ, okay, in conditioning, and that is why we do conditioning. But in case of rice, since there is no ventral furrow, there is no bifurcation, okay. So rice grain is small, one seeded fruit. Each grain remain enclosed in a brownish husk with two parts. Okay, two parts, one partially enveloping the other, like it has, like you have the husk and then the bran. The outer, okay, so if you have seen the paddy structure, you always see, the paddy. If you put it in the Google, you will find that, or maybe I have included that picture in the next slide. So the rice grain is small, one seeded fruit. Each grain remains enclosed in a brownish husk with two parts, one partially enveloping the other. Okay, the outer and the larger is called as a flowering bloom. On any grass kind of family or anything, you will see that, one is called as a flowering bloom, and the inner one or small one is called as a palea. Like if you have this grain, the structure, so palea and uh, flowering bloom. Okay, at the base of the rice grain, two minute white seals are there. They are called as a empty glue. Here also, like these sentences are explaining how the paddy or the outer cover is enclosing this white, grain or the brown grain. Okay, brown grain especially. The rice grain and the husk are together called as a paddy grain. Very, very easily understood. The paddy grain is brownish with the rough surface. This is a very, 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 very rough surface. If you do it, the threshing at home, in fact, this has such a sharp edges. Sometimes, hand gets cut with that paddy husk. Okay, paddy husk. Okay, it has a very, very rough and sharp edges when you thresh it. They are cylindrical and tapering towards the end. The rice kernel is now coming back after to the husk. There is a kernel. Okay, so this rice kernel is mainly composed of hull, pericarp, seed coat, testa, tegmen, not tegnum, aileron layer, endosperm, embryo, and germ. Sorry, there is a figure. Okay. So you have, I have already explained it before, but then you see there is a brown rice when you remove the husk or a paddy, and then that brown rice has a bran, embryo consisting of scutellum, epiblast, plumeli. Then you have brown rice which is called as a bran consisting of pericarp. This is the pericarp. Next to pericarp you have tegmen, and next to tegmen is aileron. So next immediately, who is in touch with the aileron layer? Starchy endosperm. So the immediate layer to the endosperm is the aileron layer. Which layer is immediately contact with the aileron layer? Is the starchy endosperm. Okay, so this is the starchy endosperm. Yeah, that is the ventral furrow. This is the wheat grain. Okay, this is the wheat grain, and you have this central furrow. In case of wheat, there is a aileron layer, there is a husk. Okay, try to understand the difference between aileron layer. So the bran. Okay, the husk, these are called as a pappus, and then there is a germ portion located here, and it is very easy to separate because when you do the conditioning, and because of this ventral furrow. Okay, and this palea, lemma, for any grass containing family, they have this kind of arrangement. Okay, so let's see what proportion is contributed by which. Okay, so this is the dry portion, kernel weight of the rice, and if you look, the husk or hull contributes almost 15 to 30%, and that varies from rice to rice variety. Pericarp is 4 to 5%, aileron layer is 12 to 14%, embryo constitute 2 to 3%, and endosperm 65 to 70%. So now we will see one by one each layer. If until now, if you have any question, please ask. Okay. So husk or hull. What is husk or hull? It makes about 1/5. Okay, 1/5 of the total grain weight, which comes around 21%, okay, grain weight. The outermost kernel tissue, commonly known as husk or hull, is formed from two specialized plant tissue. Husk consists of cellulose. We do not consume husk, okay. Whereas wheat husk or wheat bran is digestible. But in case of rice, the paddy consisting of cellulosic and fibrous tissue, and also there are silica compound which is not digestible, okay, that is covered with hard spine like this covering, which affords some protection for the enclosed kernel. Some or all, a lot of protection. It's very hard to remove. The husk is structurally separated from rest of the seed, and thus mechanically it is possible to remove by a process called as a milling. Okay, and all milling process of all the process conditions are favorable, and this process leaves the seed intact. Okay, so right now there is a lot of research going on in which there are a lot of attempts being made only to make this grain intact. Okay, intact, it should not get disturbed. Okay, it should not get break. The upper layer consists of silicon, and which is about 15 to 20%, and so gives cracking out. And if you have silicon, that is why it cracks out. And it is very abrasive in nature, very hard, and there are multiple number of functions. The people are looking for use of this husk or hull in downstream processing, especially bioprocess technology, wherein people also use these husk or hull in growing mushrooms, or growing downstream processing, or growing some other compound, bioactive compound, using the microbial cultures. Okay, after husk you have the pericarp. Okay, the pericarp consists of three layers of thin walled long rectangular cells around the main body of seed, which forms a very protective covering. Okay, so this pericarp is classified into a epicarp, mesocarp, like hypodermal mesocarp, and cross layer. So the slim layer of the pericarp, this is the pericarp. See, this is the pericarp. After your husk, there is a pericarp, but then this pericarp itself is made up of epicarp, mesocarp, and the cross layer. The slim layer of outer pericarp consists of a very hard tissue. Of course, this is a very hard tissue which is quite impermeable to action. And after this, there is a bran. You see, after pericarp, who is there? This is the bran. Okay, this is the bran. This testa. Okay, testa, and then bran is divided into testa and nucellar tissue. So then, when this bran, and in my previous slide I have shown this. This was about on this slide. So this is, if you take this rice grain, there is a endosperm, then you have seed coat and bran. Okay, seed coat and bran. It is most nutritious. This bran and germ contains lots of nutrients. Okay, so when you have this bran and having PUFAs, okay, unsaturated fatty acid, and it's a wonderful, gift of nature. This layer is impermeable to action of oxygen, because the oxygen causes rancidity. Sometimes, in nature we have seen the wonder. The nature itself provides, protection layer. You have seen bird feather has a nice, coating of wax. So it doesn't allow them to retain the water, or there are certain leaves or leafy vegetable on which a layer of, wax. So this is by natural. So this layer of the pericarp, which is outer pericarp, which consists of a hard tissue which is very impermeable to action of oxygen, carbon dioxide, water vapor. Okay, even if you put the paddy in the water, it's very difficult to imbibe the water. Okay, Therefore, pericarp provides some protection from oxidative and enzymatic deterioration. So until the rice grain is protected in the paddy, nothing happens. It's very, 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 very safe. Then comes your seed coat. Okay, then comes your seed coat. The testa or seed coat is a thin single or double layer with a cellular structure almost obliterated. It is beneath the pericarp, as I mentioned before, like it is just next to your pericarp. These cell layers, although a part of seed coat, are less fibrous than the outer pericarp layer. Testa or tegmen consists of, this is a spelling error, okay, I have typed it wrongly, consists of fatty material which is high in oil and protein and low in starch. It is somewhat brownish in color and it is closely adherent to the grain. Okay, and now comes here your aileron layer. Okay, so any doubt until now for husk, pericarp, tegmen or seed coat? Okay, so what is aileron layer? Do you see this round thing with the dot? Okay, and this is covering like this. Okay, okay, so both endosperm and embryo, okay, embryo and endosperm is enclosed by the aileron layer. Okay, aileron layer is very, very rich. This is that aileron layer. See this dot design, you see that round oval shape with the dot, that beautiful design. So this is enclosed by this endosperm. This is the endosperm, starchy endosperm. Okay, is and this germ, both of them are enclosed with the this aileron layer. This lies beneath the seed coat. Just now we saw the seed coat. The aileron layer is very rich in protein, oil, vitamin, low in carbohydrate, and environmental conditions, that is ripening effect, the number of cells this aileron layer has depending upon variety. For example, you know, there are varieties of rice called as indica. These have aileron layer ka 3 layer, whereas japonica has a 6 layer on dorsal side. So depending upon the variety, the aileron layer varies from 2 to 6 celled layer. Okay, the cells are parenchyma rectangular with the thin cell wall. See, this is a rectangular parenchyma with the thin cell wall. All the layer of pericarp, testa, hyaline layer closely surrounds the endosperm. Okay, the entire endosperm that folds in at the crease. Okay, here it is folding. Do you see? Here it is folding the crease. Okay. To form a loose covering over the germ. Okay, in rice, the ventral side of the embryo is protected by prolongation of aileron layer, which extends from upper end of its embryo to its base. The aileron layer and all the covering layers external to comprise the bran, an important byproduct. So this is all, you know, bran, which is an important byproduct. Okay. Next, coming to endosperm. Do you see these endosperm cells? Okay. Endosperm is like you have this aileron layer, and then next to this you have an endosperm cells with the starchy granule. So the endosperm consists of the starch granules that are low in protein. Okay, you understand the difference between starch and protein. Starch is a polysaccharide. Poly means many, saccharide means glucose unit, polymer of glucose unit. It is a polymer. Okay, it's a polysaccharide. Okay, so starch granule that are low in protein. The starch cells are somewhat hexagonal. Do you see 1 2 3 4 5 6 hexagonal in the shape, but from the center there are elongated walls radiating outwards. This is just a morphological structure. These radial walls of the starch cell form 1000 of potential cleavage planes, which may enhance, crack, or chocks in the grain kernel resulting from vacancy. the arrangement of the cell wall, the starch cell wall, we will see and study this in detail, because the cracks in the cereal grain is a very, very important topic. And why there are, cracks in the rice grain. If you have cracks in the rice grain, it will result into breakage or broken kernel. Okay, so we want to avoid that. So this cell wall of a starch consists, which forms 1000 of potential cleavage plane, which may enhance. So there are ways to prevent these cracks or check forms, okay, in the kernel. How? We will come back to that later. Then comes your embryo. Okay, then comes your embryo. Embryo consisting of scutellum, epiblast, plumelle. It is extremely small, very, very small. Okay, you saw it is almost 2 to 3%. Okay, is located on ventral side of the kernel. It is rich in again nutrients like proteins. It has oil. Again, this germ oil. Then is very, very important, used in cosmetics and pharmaceutical application. The one that we consume is a bran oil, not the germ oil. Okay, rice germ oil is used in the cosmetics for anti-aging treatment, in making creams and face mask and things like that. Okay, so it is rich in oil, vitamins, minerals. It comprises about 2% of the total. It's very, very less, almost 2%. Okay, it lies in the groove at one end of the endosperm. It consists of only one shield-shaped cotyledon, which is called as a scutellum. This is the shield. See, this is the germ and it has this shield, okay, which is known as scutellum. A short axis which has an upper portion that is plumelle. This is the short axis, and the lower portion that is a radicle. Okay, radicle. The plumelle is surrounded by a minute leaves, and radicle is protected by a cap known as a root cap. The surface layer of scutellum lying in contact with the endosperm. See, this scutellum is in contact with this is your endosperm, okay, is a epithelium. The function is, what is the function of embryo? We all know that, because it is reaching, it is forming a new life, and also to digest and absorb the food material stored in the endosperm. The main function is reproduction. So, any doubt in morphological structure of rice grain before we move ahead? And many times I will be repeating things, to give you an idea and more clarification on the rice grain. Okay. So to move further, what are the percentage of main components of milling? Like if you have a rice, you get the milled rice, which is 70%. The husk is 20%. Bran. This is on an average. This may vary depending on variety to variety, because in India itself we have so many varieties: long grain, short grain, chota, like you see basmati rice, kolam rice. In kolam there are 10 different varieties. In basmati there are 10 different varieties. Then there is ambe mohor, then mogra rice, non mogra rice, and then so many varieties here. I just can't count so many of these varieties. So based on the varieties, because see, if you have a longer rice grain, okay, it's obviously going to give you more husk compared to the shorter. This type is also there. This type, it is like, then there is a too long, like very thin. So if you have a husk, so the level of husk from these after milling will vary differently. The bran also, but this is an average. Okay, bran 8%, polish 2%. If rice is milled more than 8% bran extraction, see, this is 8% bran extraction. So you have this rice grain after removal of paddy. This is the brown rice. Okay, this is the brown rice. So now after brown rice, when you have this brown, it's very difficult to remove this brown layer. Okay, it's very difficult. So when we are trying to remove this, it is called as up to 8% bran extraction, the rice is intact. Okay, and you know that in bran there are vitamins, thiamine, riboflavin. So if you remove more, all of them gets lost. If milling rate is increased, the quality of rice decreases. This is obviously understandable. Okay, so it is always done up to 8%. During milling, if maximum polishing is done. So to remove this bran, there is a process called as a polishing. We will see every and each and every method in detail. Okay, but I'm not going directly now into the methods because we need to understand the problems. Okay, what happens, what might come across. Okay, so during milling, if maximum polishing means removal of bran and making the rice white. The one that we consume in our day-to-day life is a white rice. Maybe some of you are very health conscious, and that is why you choose a brown rice over the white rice. So during milling, if maximum polishing is done, there will be maximum extraction of the aileron layer and protein loss. As we increase the polishing rate, there will be decrease in the protein content, and so for avoiding nutrient loss we have to control the milling and we have to modify the milling operations. Okay, so there is one problem, like at the same time when you do polishing, the nutrient content of the rice grain needs to be considered. Then the second thing, you have to avoid the breakage of rice kernel. Okay, so rice grains are subjected to mechanical stresses during several unit operations, like you do harvesting, you do threshing, you do drying, you do dehulling, you do milling. Okay, so but then stress starts from the farm itself. Now you will say, what stress? What in the farm I'm going to get the stress? Okay, so you have seen these, rice grain. Okay, rice. Okay, so this is the paddy grains. When you get these paddy grains, okay. So when the farmer, takes out this paddy, what the farmer do? What the farmer do? They dry the paddy to 14%. Okay, along with the husk. Okay, they dry. So when they are drying the paddy, there is a temperature gradient. Okay, sometimes the temperature is high, sometimes the temperature is low. Okay, so then 14% moisture. Then when it is in the farm, okay, to increase the shelf life, or to just process, to give the basic process, okay, the basic shelf stability. Okay, so it is brought to the 14%, because initially the grain has a higher moisture and then it is dried on the farm. So when you are doing dehusking or dehulling, again it is sprinkled with moisture, or to loosen the husk, or then again the moisture goes high. Okay, moisture is increased, then again it is dried, again the moisture is decreased. So if you see the rice, again after dehusking, there is another method called as a milling. In the milling also we will see how it is processed. Okay, then there is one more method called as a parboiling. Again it is boiled with the water, again the moisture content increases, then it is dried. So whenever all this processing, you have this rice. This rice has, just now we have seen, starchy cells. Okay, tightly or intact. Okay, intact cells of starch. Okay, you have seen this is the polymer. Starch is okay, so you have these intact cells. You know that rice is made up of starch. Okay, particularly the endosperm. Starch consisting of amylose, amylopectin. Amylose is a straight chain. Okay, it's a straight chain. Whereas amylopectin is, branches. You see these branches. Do you see this? This is amylopectin, which is a branch. Okay, it's a branch. And this is a straight glucose molecule. Okay. Straight. So when these cells are intact naturally because of the moisture gradient, the bonding between these molecule of amylose or amylopectin is going to vary, and because of the difference in the moisture gradient, we will see that in detail. There is a formation of crack. The grain doesn't break, but there are cracks seen on the surface, and when you are processing it further, either it is milling or whatever process, the grain breaks from here. So you have now grain with a broken kernel. Okay, so this is the small grain, and then that is how the grain breaks. Okay. Okay, so rice grains are subjected to mechanical during several unit operations. Just now I explained what are those and how. So that such as harvesting, threshing, drying, dehulling, and when the stresses exceed the rice grain strength, the individual rice grain breaks. The intensity of processing largely determines the actual level of broken kernel. However, the tendency of rice kernel to break is primarily determined by fixture. Okay, just now I explained what are the fixture. Okay, fixture like this. Chalkiness, purity, rice. So, rice kernel is broken is because of the factors. Number one factor fixture, number two factor chalkiness, number three immaturity. We will see that in detail. Okay, so impact of milling on breakage, like this is also one factor. The previous three factors we will see in the upcoming slide, but there is one more factor called impact of milling on breakage. So dehulling. So generally dehullers or rubber roll dehullers are used. Okay, so you see this is one rubber roll and there is another rubber roll, and from here you put the paddy. Okay, you put the paddy here. So when you put this paddy here, because of the distance between these two roll, there is a stress applied. So you suppose this, there is a stress by this roller and this roller, and because of the shear stress applied onto rice kernel, this gets loosened up. Okay, and then you get this loosened up, and then you remove this. As the distance increases, the kernel experiences less stress. If you reduce the distance, what will happen? There will be more stress. If there is more stress, what will happen? The granule will develop the cracks or it will break. Okay, and then if you have a distance between these two rolls, like more distance, or the grain or the paddy has a less pressure or less force, it will not break. Very simple. Okay, we will see what type of machinery is being used. So just to give you an example, again same thing, like this is the rolls and then the distance between these two rolls. We will see this again, discuss this in detail. Okay, and then you have this husk outlet. So do you have any questions until now? So for performing the milling of the rice, so the amount of rice kernel that break during milling is influenced by type of mill that is. Even in the wheat flour we have seen there are different types of mill and how they influence on the flour quality. Likewise, what type of milling machine or milling operation one uses influences the breakage of the rice or the quality of the rice. Abrasive mills operate at a relatively low and uniform grain to grain pressure, and they are consequently produce less broken rice from the other mills like friction mills. Okay, we will see all type. So there are multiple factors, as I said before also. One is moisture content. Higher moisture content and higher temperature result into increased degree of milling. Okay, how that we will explain. Temperature. If you have a temperature gradient, more high temperature, low temperature, that will also affect. Kernel surface topography affect the ease with which bran is removed. Like what type of, and we have seen there are different types, whether it is oval, whether it is, very thin, what type of uh, rice kernel you have. So parameters for considering rice milling efficiency, like head rice yield. Head rice yield means a good quality rice. The primary parameter used to quantify the rice dehulling and milling is head rice yield, that is HRY. That is HRY means, or head rice yield means, the mass as the mass percentage of rough rice that remains after milling as a head rice. Okay, so kernel that are at least 3/4 of the original kernel length, like, is called as the so that is the requirement. At least 3/4 of the original kernel length. Suppose you have a original kernel length, this. In case of nowadays, you take any sample of the rice, you see little bit portion, either it is broken from here, getting, as such whole. So this is all depending upon the mill efficiency. It is measured or calculated based on the head rice yield, that is the mass percentage of rough rice that is remained after milling as a head rice. Okay, and that may range from 0 to 75%. Okay, so there are various factors that determines the rice kernel breakage, which is very very important, and we will see that. So as I mentioned before, these three factors like kernel fixture, chalkiness, immaturity, and dimension properties are very very important in deciding the one. Okay, breakage. So we all know that rice grain is a hygroscopic, it has a hygroscopic nature. So rice grain adsorb or desorb the moisture from or onto the air until an equilibrium state is reached. Suppose you have a paddy, you are in the farm. In the farm, the night temperature, night in the night the temperature is different, in the daytime it is very sunny, the humidity is different in the night, in the daytime. So basically when you have a high humidity or moisture, it will absorb. When you have a high temperature in the daytime, it will dissolve. Okay, so this will happen in case of rice. This equilibrium state is a function of both relative humidity as well as temperature of the surrounding air. That is very very understandable, and this is a natural phenomenon because it has a rice. This has a starch. The moisture content gradient in the rice kernel resulting from moisture sorption cause hygroscopic stresses in the kernel. When the moisture content gradient exceed the rice kernel mechanical strength, fissure. So these are, see, this is the original photograph of the rice, wherein you see, you go to the kitchen after this class and take out few grains of rice and look at them. You will find some grain which has this fissure. Okay, which has this fissure. So it develops fissure. Okay. So when the moisture content, when this fissure develop, the moisture content gradient exceeds the rice kernel mechanism. Suppose, one day the hygroscopic, or one day the humidity goes high and then next day it comes down. This happens only one or twice. But then this is very very frequently happening in the farm because of the climate change. You see, Nowadays in India also during summer you see rainy season, or in the during winter you see rainy. Just a moment, I have a call. Sorry. So basically, when the moisture content gradient exceed the rice kernel mechanical strength, fissure can develop. So such fissures are large internal fractures. These are those fractures. See, this is this fracture. Do you see? This fracture, this. And suppose you are milling this kind of paddy. See, it is, see, there is a cover of the paddy, but inside the rice grain, it develops the crackers or fissures due to the moisture content gradient. Okay. And such fissures are large internal fractures, usually perpendicular to the longitudinal axis, perpendicular to the longitudinal axis of the rice grain. Rice grain kernel primarily break during dehulling and milling because of the weaknesses. So this is a weak area. Okay, this is a weak area. The moment you get any force or pressure here, this is going to break. Then the second one is a chalkiness. See, do you see this grain with the white half portion? Even this happen in case of tukda, or if a very high and good quality rice, you see there is a white dot here, white dot here, white dot here. Or these are different type of grain. So they have, sorry. So this is so if you look at this either it can develop in the center. This is called as a milky white portion, or it can develop at the basal white, or here it is basal white or near the embryo here. Okay, or it is at the side, or this is the half portion. Do you see? Only half. So white back. Okay. So this is called as a chalkiness. Even this is a very common. You take out the grain and from the kitchen and have a look at it. So rice chalkiness appears as a white opaque area which can make up part of or the entire rice. See, you see, it can be, some grains are entirely white. Okay, this, but then some grains are like partially, so it can make either partially or. The starch granule in the chalky rice endosperm are loosely packed. Okay. Am I audible? Because it is showing very bad network.
You're audible, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. And you can see also my slides.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Atul. So these starch granules in the chalky rice endosperm are loosely packed. And why do you think this happens? Why do you think? Any guesses? Why it gets loosely packed? So you know that you have the rice with the starch, and starch is made up of amylose. Amylopectin. Okay, amylopectin. Okay, it is amylopectin is a sticky rice or glutinous rice. This is non-sticky. Have you heard about aged rice? Aged rice. That we will see later on, but right now I want to explain. So amylose, okay, this is the amylose chain, which is a straight when you have this amylose, which is a straight chain, you see there is more, like we will study that in detail. Mostly amylose is there in the rice in the different proportion. So when you have a moisture gradient, okay, moisture gradient, or due to hygroscopicity, what will happen? Hygroscopicity, these amylose molecule, what they will do, they will absorb the water, okay, and there is a water. So you know that between these amylose molecule there is a more stronger interaction because they are straight, okay. For any molecule which are like straight, they will have more interaction among themselves, okay, compared to amylopectin. So when you have these molecule and when the water is added, okay, water is added, what happens? It swells, it absorbs the water, and then again what you are doing, you are drying, okay. So earlier they had some good packing or good interaction, but then the molecule is, because of the moisture gradient, they are changing its natural function, like changing its functionality, okay, changing its functionality. So because of the swelling or moisture absorption, the this portion, suppose only this portion becomes chalky and this remains, so here the bonding between these molecule, because there is water is not entered, this bonding between these chains of amylose is a stronger, and that is why it is not chalky. Whereas because of this half portion of the rice, the water has entered, and because when the water is entered between these amylose molecule, and therefore that causes, that chalkiness causes loose, it is loosely packed compared to the non-chalky rice, okay. So the starch granule in the chalky rice endosperm are loosely packed, and the resulting air spaces impact the refraction of the light through the grain. So chalky kernel breaks more easily during dehulling and milling than the translucent rice kernel. So suppose you are milling this kind of rice wherein at this portion there is a chalkiness. So these amylose molecule here are loosely packed, and when you are doing milling, here it will break, खटाक से इतना break हो जाएगा या ऐसे break, mostly it happens like this, okay. So then the translucent rice kernel, and thus decreases the head ratio yield, okay. So you don't have the head ratio, or you don't have the complete whole rice grain, instead you will get the broken. The lower resistance of chalky rice kernel to grain breakage can be attributed to their low hardness. Na, that bonding, if you have the molecule, like I was explaining in my another class, like saturated fatty acid, when they are straight, straight, there is a stronger bonding, okay. Okay, or otherwise another example, suppose you have the woodens, okay. So if you have straight wood, you can pack them nicely, okay. But then instead of the wood, if you have these sticks or the branches, and when you try to stack them, see, this will pack very nicely and there will be more bonding. So similarly here also, when you have amylose, it's a straight chain, there is a more strong bonding, and but the moment you have this amylopectin, which is a long, and therefore there is a loose bonding. So depending upon the rice variety also, it affects. So low hardness, which makes them less resistant to mechanical state. Numerous air spaces in the endosperm of chalky rice kernel may increase the susceptibility to fissure. Okay, fissure formation. Hence, kernel breakage during dehulling and milling occurs. Okay, and it is very common, very usual, but there are various ways these milling industries are trying to reduce this chalkiness. Any question? Then the third thing is immaturity. Rice grains that have moisture content exceeding. Immature means before it is ready for harvest, you harvest them. Okay. So immature grains, rice grains that have a moisture content exceeding 22% are generally considered to be immature rice grain. Immature rice kernels are defined as thin kernel, often green in color with various levels of chalkiness, like starting from 10% to 100%. Do you see this is 100%? You must have seen, I have seen this type of, rice. You get them particularly in the rural area when farmers are manufacturing their own rice. Not manufacturing, they have harvesting their own rice and making the brown rice and all the polished rice at home. So in that cases, immature rice kernel lack strain, and as a consequence, they break relatively easy during dehulling and milling. Then the fourth aspect is kernel dimension. We have already discussed it several times, but based on the length, width ratio, the grain shape, rice grains of a given cultivar. Okay, that cultivar also, some of the cultivars are highly resistant to breakage. They are classified into three different grain types like long grains, medium grains, and short grain rice. Even in the market, if you go, when you go and buy the rice grain price is divided based on its size. So long grain very expensive, medium thoda kam milega uska price, and then short grain. Okay, short grain. It is called as a tukda in the Indian market. In medium and short grain rice, the distance between the surface and the center of rice grain is larger than in the long grain rice. As a consequence, a higher moisture content gradient is present in the, it is obvious now, in the former kernels, resulting in the higher susceptibility to fissure. So broken rice or the shorter medium length grain would have more fissures. Slender grain seems to poorly resist mechanical strains. Thin long grain rice. So there are a lot of research paper available on these kind of study wherein specific variety of rice grain is taken into consideration and studied for its mechanical strains. Thin, but that I have not taken it here because there are a number of different tables wherein, and I thought that is not important. You should understand how kernel dimension varies or affects on the breakage. Thin long grain rice fractions like kernel thickness of 1.62 to 1.78 mm results into high level of broken kernels. Any doubts? Yeah. So this is again repetitive, like how the cracks are formed. It is very relevant to the breakage, and it is the same thing like during drying of paddy, sudden drying leads to crack formation, moisture gradient different, contraction. See what happens, when you are absorbing the moisture, desorbing, absorption, desorbing. So the endosperm, expand and contract and endosperm, and due to that, the crack gets formed. So certain physicochemical properties of rice, just to keep into mind. So quality of rice depends on length, width, porosity. Porosity means how quickly it gets cooked, how quickly it gets absorb water. See, in the market, if you go, we have You have heard about rice, plain rice, okay, cooking rice, basmati rice, biryani rice, pulao rice, so many variety. But if you consider, cooking rice, okay, cooking rice, and then parboiled rice. But generally, parboiled rice, because of the treatment called as a parboiling, it takes a longer time, and the porosity is different, and that is why parboiled rice is generally used in making idli. Okay, it is also called as a idli rice. Okay, if you look, idli rice looks very different. Okay, the density means mass per volume. And chemical properties including percent of starch or protein. So quality of rice depends on length, weight, porosity, density, and chemical properties. So what are like these properties? Just see quickly. Suppose you have a paddy ranging from 6 to 10 mm, whereas rice length ranges from 4 to 7, because then that 2 centimeter, like 2 mm is your that paddy ka length. See, this is the paddy, and then inside this paddy you have this rice. Okay, this rice grain, white rice. Then this is that way. Breadth 2.3 to 3 point, and again it is 1.2 to 1.2 to 2.8 mm. Thickness 1.6 to 2.3 to 1.4 to 2 mm. Length to breadth ratio from 2 to 4 mm to 1.6 to 3.6. It's a ratio, no unit. 100 grain weight. So like 100, or it is also called as 1000 kernel weight. Suppose you have, what is the weight? So this is going to affect on the physicochemical property. So 100 grain weight, or it is also called as a 1000 kernel weight. So you take them and you weigh them. So 11 to, it's not a fixed, but it will vary from variety to variety. Density, bulk density, porosity, angle of repose. This is important in terms of while doing the milling operation. We will see all these properties during milling also. I will be repeating them again and again. So superfine rice, if you say superfine, the length to breadth ratio is always greater than 3 length to breadth ratio. Fine grade, like little lower quality than. So here you see 2.5 to 2.99. Common rice is 2.49. Coarse rice is less than 2. So this length to breadth ratio gives an idea of soundness of the grain. Lower the length to breadth ratio, that means shorter is the grain. It's obvious. Higher the L and B ratio is the longer grain. Okay. So weight of the 100 grain, if weight is more than grain, then the grain will be sound, bold, not infected. These grain contains maximum endosperm. See, if you have the broken tukda or chalkiness or fissure, so in cooking also, it will not, and there are certain varieties, they have this nutrient into it. Like if you take ambe mohor, it is also called as a baby rice, and there are other varieties also. So like for example, mogra variety or basmati variety, if you have broken the aroma, the essential component may get damaged because of the broken kernel. So lower weight indicates unsound infected grains. This can be determined by manually or by automatic. There are nowadays automatic counting machine, because it's very quick. It is called as a 100 kernel weight machine. Due to vacuum, it will pick up the grain and give the number of grain infected, or milling rate increases as weight of the grain increases. That's obvious. So how sound, so it gives an idea the soundness of the grain. Density is measured in gram per liter. It covers the air space in the grain. It varies from 1.1 to 1.46 gram per liter, and it also varies from variety to variety. Bulk density, it again gives an idea about soundness. It is also important in packaging, as it gives idea about the size of packaging material. Porosity, basically porosity is defined as the percent of volume of intergrain space to volume of grain bulk, the percent void of different grains. Suppose you have more chalky grain, or if you have more grain with a fissure, your porosity is going to get affected. Okay, if your rice grain have undergone a lots and lots of moisture content gradient and absorption, the porosity is going to affect. The percent void of different grains in bulk are often needed in drying, airflow, heat flow studies of grain. Porosity depends on shape, dimension, roughness of the grain. Bulk density and porosity are related to shape of the grain but independent of size. More round the grain is, more is bulk density and less is porosity. So this is applicable to paddy and rice. Paddy has more porosity because of the husk or compared to rice, and L and B ratio also. Paddy has more L and B ratio compared to rice, that is obvious. Angle of repose, angle between horizontal base and slope of cone formed on a free vertical fall of grain of mass. See, these properties will be useful when we perform the dehulling and milling operation, because in the dehulling and milling operation, when you are cleaning or when you are after dehulling or dehusking, you need to put the grain, separate the grain from the paddy or husk or brown rice. So angle between horizontal base and slope of cone formed on a free vertical fall of a grain mass to horizontal plane. It gives the frictional property of rice grain, that is during storage, transportation, and it is also designing for the hopper in rice mill, like what is the feed rate. When you have a higher feed rate, the milling efficiency is different. If you have poor feed rate, the milling efficiency different, so on and so forth. Angle of hopper must be greater than angle of effect of moisture. Yeah, that I have already explained. As moisture content of paddy rice increases, density, bulk density decreases. Okay. Effect of milling on physical property, degree of milling extraction increases. What is the effect of chemical composition? Any doubt until now you have? Okay. So basically, we have already seen that the rice, which contains more of starch, rice is, but however, it also gives a small amount of protein, fat, vitamin. Fat, obviously, when it is a brown rice, and mineral, but it becomes poor in protein, vitamins, and minerals due to milling process. And the milling causes loss in the nutrient, and the main constituent of rice is obviously the starch, that is carbohydrate. During milling, the outer layer, that is the aleurone layer, mesocarp, epicarp, testa are removed, which are rich in protein, fat, mineral, vitamin. So after milling, rice become poor in protein, poor in vitamin, basically thiamine, niacin, and minerals. So carbohydrate content does not change because it doesn't change during aging, but yes, the functional property of the rice changes. Aged rice, more it's more fluffy and it is more non-sticky. So it is only starch is converted by alpha beta amylase into dextrin, which further convert into the maltose. Yeah, that is like, it is understandable. We will see that more in detail later on during parboiling and gelatinization of rice starch. Protein content doesn't change during aging, but protein may be removed by milling. Fat, again, rice contain 15 to 16% fat in the bran, and when it comes in contact with air, oxidation or hydrolysis takes place at a rapid rate because it is an unsaturated fatty acid, particularly polyunsaturated fatty acid. And when you have this PUFA, because of the presence of on more double bond, the hydrolysis and oxidation takes place at a faster rate, and the rancidity causes because of the production of hydroperoxides, free radicals, and rancid compounds like aldehyde and ketone, and thus results into a flavor generated. So to maintain the shelf life of the rice, outer layer, that is bran, is always removed. Always removed. Okay. Vitamin, significant loss of vitamin during milling takes place because you remove the bran and then bran has this thiamine, and therefore there is a loss of vitamin takes place after milling or polishing. Enzymes like alpha, beta, amylase, oxidase, proteolytic enzymes decreases as storage increases, and also we are removing these enzymes. Okay. So this table gives you an idea about the composition of brown and milled rice. Okay, the composition is in milligram per 100 gram. So when you compare, let's talk about protein content in the wheat is 12.3, but whereas when you have the milled rice, at least when you have a brown rice, the protein content is little higher, but then moment you remove the bran, your protein content is reduced. Carbohydrate is not affected much compared to other grain like brown and milled one. Whereas crude fiber is significantly, because this bran is nothing but the crude fiber. So from 1.2, because you are polishing, you are removing it completely and it is becoming 1.7. Fat is also significantly removed, and that is why this bran is recovered for oil and we get bran oil, rice bran oil, compared to all other grains. Like if you see, wheat has 2.2 milligrams as compared to, this is a gram. Okay. Minor components milligram, others are in gram. Okay. Thiamine, if you see, there is lot of loss. Thiamine from 0.3 to just 0.04, almost 17, say almost half. Sodium content, mineral, lot of mineral loss. Calcium, almost 50% loss from brown rice to milled rice. Almost chlorine is lost, even more than 50%. Okay. Iron, also see so much of difference. 309. Biological availability is quite because of course if you have bran or fiber, the digestibility or biological value affects significantly. Biological value means the how quickly the food gets digested and you get the absorption of the nutrients. So here it is more net protein, lysine and other things. Okay. So before we go into the rice milling or before rice milling also, we have that. See, rice milling is classified into dehusking or removal of the husk or paddy, and then polishing or removal of the bran. Okay, and then you have the final. But then before we perform the dehusking, we have one more operation called as a cleaning. Okay, cleaning of the paddy. Then we have dehusking. Then you have milling, that is also called as a removal of the bran, and then it is also called as a polishing of the rice. So before we go into detail, please feel free to ask if there are any questions.